Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, if you ask your mom, your girlfriend, or any woman that you have in your life, if you ask them why they put on makeup, why they try and look good, why they do particular things, they're probably going to say, it's because myself. If you explain all of this debate stuff and say it's because of the patriarchy or it's because of me, they're probably gonna slap you and get offended. The reality check we have to have is really asking ourselves, why do women do this? And as a consequence, what should the feminist movement do insofar as this reality is happening? I understand that these beauty standards decades ago were because of the patriarchy, but as time and history evolved, a lot of those things were unraveled and it became more centered towards the self and coming from within. This in and of itself liberates women and allows them a true exercise of their own agency to be able to be happy within their own skin. And as a consequence, if Gov's case, particularly opening Gov, is about how we have such a plurality of women, the question I then have is, then what's the harm, right? Because all of these things can coexist. You have a lot of women of all diverse particular backgrounds, and as a consequence, why should the feminist movement still have to criticize them? In fact, my comparative is that if the feminist movement were to actually criticize them, it sends the message that there's something wrong. And this is a crucial piece of analysis that opening missed, and it's less about capitalism and all of these examples of exercising self-choice, but really answering and explaining the question that women do this not because of men, but because of themselves. And that uniquely happens when they're able to understand that a lot of these realities exist, and as a consequence, if the movement criticizes them, it does more harm and it pushes them to the fringes and ultimately makes it harder for them to be able to attach to movement. My extension is as follows. A lot of what top half said were about the individual, but lacked the nuance and the comparative to the movement. This is value judgment, but also in the flavor of the movement, and me developing the idea of what exactly are the harms of criticism? How does that harm the movement and as a consequence harm the individual? So this comes a priori and upstream of opening's very individual impacts. We're here to talk about the movement as a whole, a macro approach that sets the stage for what they want. 3 things in extension. Number 1, how and why do these beauty standards evolve? Opening kinda asserted this, but at best it became a deadlock. I'm gonna explain historically how those came to be. Second, I'm going to evaluate the harms of criticism in the feminist movement. And this is about strategy, because the goal of the feminist movement is to be able to do things like gain more support from allies or people wanting to opt in, allow feminist movement who are centrists or moderates a chance to be able to find what strand they want to associate with, and thirdly, just be able to take care of the ones we already have and not lose them to maybe other ideologies or them thinking the movement sucks. And thirdly, I'm going to take the worst case of beauty standards and talk about conformity at its worst, still allowing and defining what it means to be beautiful because of this plurality that exists. Let's talk about the first idea. How and why do these beauty standards evolve? Opening talked about capitalism. But absent capitalism, beauty standards evolve because we realize in a very globalized world that women of all shapes, sizes, and ethnicities particularly do exist. That is to say, the feminist movement has evolved in a way that takes into account all of these different facets and strands. You have women who are liberal, women who are conservative, you have women who are left, you have women who are right, you have women who are more radical, you have women who are centrist, moderate, and conservative. This, in fact, allows the feminist movement to have all of their strands, right? You have some feminists who are hypersexualized and radical. You have some who are a bit more traditional and conservative. You have some who are motivated by lipstick feminism and actually serve as an antithesis to these beauty standards, because even if they do things like looking good, they do it because of their own intent to have sexual liberation and express their own identity and something that is not about men. But sure, let's engage with Gov. yes, the roots were for men, or before that's how it was packaged or framed, but as we broke the glass ceiling and women were able to get all of these particular reform and influence, it started introspecting coming from within. That's why the reason why companies now have branding of being able to say, oh, beauty comes in all shapes and sizes. It's not anymore a cookie cutter approach of how it was before, where it was a matter of being voluptuous or having blonde hair and white skin. We've evolved past all those particular things. POI from opening, go.
The idea is simple. If this is about evolution which has taken place, why is it that men don't have the same expectations put on them? And why is this uniquely something which we expect from women? If that is true, I don't think your case makes any sense.
We think that we can still push back against this being not for men and still being for women. And that's where the part on evolution comes in, wherein we're able to adjust the message and be able to say that, yes, before it was framed to be for you, but since we were able to have more political, economic enfranchisement, it now became something from within. And the tension for opening, which I want to resolve, is that both can coexist. It's just that the way it evolved now, as what we see in all this like liberal woke bullshit in the US, is that it's really more about the within. Secondly, very quickly, the harms of criticism and what the feminist movement does, why it's a bad strategy. It's because you send the message that the choices that these legitimate women make are invalid when you have the nuance to should criticize all attempts. Meaning at any point in time, you want to use this product, you want to go to the gym, you want to help yourself, is a point in which it becomes an invalid thing to do, and it causes tension and infighting within the feminist movement, which makes it harder for them to retain the people they already have and be able to galvanize support from the moderates who they want and even the allies they try to reach. Thirdly, and most importantly, the idea of taking conformity at its worst just allows a plurality of beliefs and ideologies to come to fruition. Meaning, when people start questioning these particular standards, we allow these particular standards to evolve and encompass to be able to allow all women from diverse backgrounds to be able to play a role. And for all of these reasons, we are very proud to stand on side opposition.